All right, welcome all. I've come to speak about Vim tonight. So who here hasn't used Vim? Who here hasn't used Vim? Anyone? All right, so yeah, Vim, I'm going to talk about it in the respects of being able to use it as an IDE for software development. A little bit of history. Vim has been around for a long time. Stands for VI Improved. The original version of the program was called VI. It's described on vim.org as a powerful text editor for programmers, power users, and command line gurus. It was created by Bill Joy in 1976, so year I was born. It's 40 years old. It's originally known as EX, or X, I guess, and when it was first created. And then the incarnation we know now is Vim, and it was created originally in 1988 as what you'd call now a fork, and then officially available to the public in 1991, November. And currently, 7.4 is the latest stable version. I currently use 7.3 because that's what Brew gives me. So, and if you're not familiar with what that means, there's a package management system for the Mac called Homebrew, and you can, just like on a Red Hat Linux box, you could type RPM install software. On a Mac, you can type brew install software, and it downloads a bottle of your software and then pours it for you, and then it's installed. So, see if they can read this on this screen. I wasn't sure if it'd be able to, but I thought it'd be a little levity to start. So the joke there is, I'm this panel. Emacs is even more hardcore than Vim, you could say. It's cording and it's complicated. It's more like an operating system than a software development system, but it gets more silly across the way, and then use butterflies, and then Emacs makes the jokes. Oh, we have a command for that. You just chord Control-X meta C meta butterfly. So why Vim is an IDE? It's installed everywhere. It's installed, if you install an operating system, maybe not Windows, but anything else, you're going to get Vim installed for free. So it's great. So if you just need to edit whatever text file on any Linux, Mac, or whatever Unix-based system, you're going to have Vim available. It's powerful, it's extensible, it's lightweight, it's really fast. And the cons, the reason not to use it as an IDE, super steep learning curve. Heather, you were saying you've tried it before. You are not a fan. I understand. I was the same way when I first was introduced to it. I was originally using Pico, which was that first frame of that cartoon in the late 90s, and the sysadmin where I worked uninstalled Pico from everywhere to make us all learn Vim. I was like, you are cruel. He also named our servers after classical composers. So, of course, the software I needed to develop was on Tchaikovsky. SSHing into Tchaikovsky is a pain. All right. Here's another one. Hint, you are here. So you need to be here before you can start using it. And then Emacs, that's not even real. I'm not talking about Emacs. All right, taming Vim. First thing you need to be able to do is get comfortable editing your .vimrc file. An RC file is a preference file in Unix for an application. And the .vimrc file is just a text file. It's a simple text file. And you can set values for configs, like set your syntax on. That'll show coloring of your whatever code you're writing, whatever language it is. C, HTML, Perl, Python, whatever. If you have syntax on, you'll see coloring on your files. With the rest of these, I've commented pretty well. And a comment, as you can see, is the quotes. So set number, show line numbers when I'm editing. Set ruler, show me my column line number and percent through the file that I'm at. Show an HL search, highlight any matches if I'm searching for something. Smart casing, references searching, so if you type it all in lowercase, it'll search on both uppercase and lowercase versions of it throughout the file. Auto indenting, if you tab in and you type some stuff and you hit enter, it'll tab in on your next line too, so auto indents for you. Ignore case ignores case when you're searching. So really basic stuff. There are probably thousands of these, and these are just a few of the most basic ones. But the idea is get comfortable with that. Like get a few that you're familiar with, and you're like, oh yeah, I want that. I want to be able to have that in my editor. All right, and then we jump right to what I'm going to end up presenting. This is like a flash forward of what at the end of this I'll kind of show you all. This is when I use Vim. This is what it looks like. The idea here is I have the ability to open a file by file name within Vim, fuzzy finding file, like you could type in half of a name and it'll show you all the file names in the directory structure below you that match that, and then let you choose from those. This over here is a file explorer, so you can see from the file directory you're in and down all the files that are in there, and then you can just search through it and open a file. On the right hand side here, this is your language objects, so what they're called tags. And so I've got a Perl package here, method or a module, and it's got 2 subroutines, 2 functions. And so I can just go over to that panel over there and then select one of them and hit enter, and it'll take me right to it in the code. It'll pop me back over into this window and I'll be ready to edit. And this down here is a search tool that lets me search the code base, and then if I within the files. This is searching for file names, and this is searching within the files. So if I pop down here and select one of these and hit enter, it'll put me right in the code where that line match was. So this is just a sort of a idea of that. Okay, so beyond your vimrc, editing your configs, plugin management. Plugin management's really where it's at. When you find some cool plugins that help you do your job better, it makes Vim so much easier, so much more powerful. So managing your plugins used to be difficult and tedious. The old school manual style was you'd go to vim.org, they have tons and tons of plugins. You download one, it's a zip file. You unzip the file, it's a directory. In that directory, there's probably 5 or more directories. You'd have to take that and move all those files into the 5 directories in your what's called a .vim folder in your home directory, and then everything will be fine, and then you move on. But it's just time-consuming and tedious. These days, there's some popular modern plugin managers one's called Pathogen, one called Vundle, NeoBundle, there's a few more. I use Vundle. Vundle is pretty sweet. Pathogen seems a little complicated. NeoBundle I didn't even try, but I'm going to show you Vundle tonight. So Vundle, you can get it on GitHub. There's the URL right there. You just Google it. It'll be one of the first things that pops up. It's a pretty unique name. To install a plugin, most plugins for Vim are already on GitHub. So all you need to know to install a plugin with Vundle is the author and the project name. That's all you need to know. And there's a lot of other ways to install things with Vundle, but this is the most easy. It's the one I'm going to show tonight. So all you have to do is add this line, plugin, with quotes, and then the author/project. You add that to your vimrc, that same thing I was telling you about before, alongside your syntax on and show line numbers. You save it and reload it, and you are ready to go. All you need to know then is there's 3 major commands with Vundle that make life easy. Plugin install. So if you added this line here to your vimrc, and then you reload your vimrc, and then you say plugin install, and when I say :plugin install, that's literally all you have to type in Vim. When you type the colon, that brings up a prompt or a command prompt, and you just type in plugin install from there and hit enter. And what it does is it figures out, well, which things does he have installed already? What does he not have installed? I'll go install the ones that aren't installed. Plugin update does exactly what you think it'd do. It goes and looks at all the plugins that you have already, and then goes and updates them for you from GitHub. So if you have like 10 plugins, and you just run this like once a day or once a week or once a month, it updates them all. If anybody's made changes to their plugins, you get those for free. And then if you remove anything from your vimrc, all you have to do is type plugin clean, and it deletes them for you. So then you have a nice clean directory. So then next, window management. So you got your vimrc for managing your configs, you got your plugins. Now you need to know how to start navigating. So window management's pretty key. Getting around with some control keys like Control-W, V, or Control-W-H lets you split your windows, and I'll show you what that means. I'll start to switch back and forth between some code and actually like my slides here to demo some of these things. And at the very end, I'll kind of demo the whole thing in action with writing an application and making it work. So let's let's go into the directory I've got. And let's say weather. All right. So when I said split your window, right now I've got Vim open. You can see I've got a status bar here at the bottom. Status bar shows me the mode I'm in. Oh, I should probably mention that. If you don't know about Vim, Vim is modal, meaning you don't just open it like any text editor and start typing. You just can't do that. It's modal, meaning in normal mode, you can type commands and do cool stuff. If you wanted to actually type, you have to go to insert mode. And to get to insert mode, it's the letter I. And you notice I switched to insert mode. At that point, I can start typing. You can say, hi, these are comments. And then I hit escape a couple times, and I'm back to normal mode. So it's modal is what it's called. There's also visual mode, so if you wanted to select a whole bunch of text and say delete it, you can do that. Oh, I should probably show you. So that's visual mode, you can see here. So back out a little bit. So to explain navigating with splitting windows, I like to split windows. Control-WS splits horizontally, and then say you want to split again, you can split vertically. And you can split multiple times. So you can imagine you could be working on multiple packages at the same time and kind of switch between them. So splitting, horizontal, vertical. Again, it's Control-W and then V to split vertically, and then Control-W or H, and that's window as in Control-W. You can control those by saying, well, I want to open one of these windows all the way horizontally or all the way vertically. So Control-W pipe or Control-W underscore is how you do that. So for example, I'm here on the right-hand side, and I want to make that one full width, right? So Control-W pipe. And now these have been smashed over. And now I want to make this one full open that way. Control-W underscore. So now I can work in this one kind of nice and clean and get around. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready to go back. I want to equalize everything. Control-W equals. Back to normal. So that's Control-W equal for balancing. And then getting between all of those is this whole side over here. So once you have a bunch of splits, Control-W, again, it's pretty common, right? Control-W, Control-W, Control-W. If you use, so these are for, these were for splitting like I was talking about before. And then the arrow keys are directional. So if I use Control-W left, Control-W left, Control-W down, get the idea, right? All right, so that's navigating, window management. All right, code navigation. So as I mentioned before, when you're writing code, you have language objects. And they're called tags. There's a system called a program called ctags where you can download. You are here, and then you can download plugins that can let you use the result of running ctags that create these language objects tags. Kind of show you how that works. If you don't have ctags installed and you're on a Mac, you can use Homebrew. Brew install ctags. Done. Then you have to get a little crafty. So for this stuff, I'm going to make this presentation available via the Meetup page afterwards, so you can see all these neat notes. But I did some research on the internet, found this, put this together. I like it for Perl specifically, but you can make it for Python, Bash, whatever, C++, whatever language you write. You can make the ctag alias for your preference. So then all you have to do is once you get your alias in order, so that program here, or this alias, you just go into the directory where your code is, and you type ctag it, and let it run. It takes a couple seconds, and it creates a file that's all the language objects. So then there's, so exuberant ctags is the name of the program that creates the tags. So then there's using those tags to get around. So if you've written software before, and you have navigated it maybe in an IDE, you know that you can put your cursor on a method, call to a method, say, like, here's my parse query call, right? And say I didn't know where that was, and I wanted to jump to it real quick. Make sure I have my ctags going. Oh, ctag it. You can see how it works. So I just ran ctag it. It ran 6 files, 220 lines. Ran really fast, right? So now, if I get back in here, and I should be able to, let's restart it. All right, go control right bracket. Takes me right to where I wanted to be. And then once I'm there, say that took me into a new file completely out of this file. If I wanted to go back to where I was, Control T takes me back a step. So see, I put my cursor right back where I was. So you could drill down into several method calls into your code and then come back up. Kind of nice for navigating. So that's this here. These are a couple more aliases that you'd put in your vimrc file. So, oh, and this one here, Tagbar toggle. So this is a plugin that's called Tagbar. And I've aliased F3 to being able to open my Tagbar. I'll show you how that works in a second. And then Control / does something similar to what I just did with the Control right bracket, except it opens it in a new tab. So I didn't even talk about tabs yet, but notice here I have my original file I was in. Now I have a new tab open with my cursor on this line. So now I can even go between these. Oops. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to go back to a little trick that I do with
Please, yeah.
the right square bracket. The disadvantage of, like you said, you can go down
Traverse, yeah.
levels. The problem is that if you want to do like any undos or anything, when you go back to the original file, that's actually all lost. So I do a Control W and then Control right.
There you go.
It opens it in
There's so many tricks here.
drill down,
So what he's talking.
you don't lose your current file content.
So what he's talking about there is Control W, G, Control right bracket. Notice now it's giving me the options like, hey, I see this in a couple different places. Do you want to select one or two? So it's showing me in my service weather, which is I've deprecated that version and I'm now using this one. So I want to go in this one. So all I have to do is one. And now it's opened me into a new file or a new split down here. So similar to what you're talking about, right? And now you don't lose your place. So there's all kinds of ways to get around. For the sake of time, I'm probably going to skip a couple more things here because I got a lot of content to go through. When you create your tags, the tag, you're going to need this if you're going to implement all this because in your vimrc, it needs to know where to look for tags. And this is how you do it. Set tags equals, and then a comma delimited list of all the places your tag files can be. Any questions? Cool. A couple more things on tags. If you know the name of your tag and you're in some code, all you have to do is type :tag and then the function name and it'll take you right to it. Again, Control T and Control right bracket, what I just talked about, where you can dive into code or back out of code as you're navigating. And then plugins. So I'll talk a little bit about plugins. That color did not turn out how I wanted it to. But this will be in the slides on the meetup page once I host it up there. So Tagbar and airline are two that I wanted to talk about. Airline I kind of showed you already. That's the status bar at the bottom that showed me where my normal or insert or visual modes were. Also shows you the branch of the version control of the project you're in, the file path of the file you're in, shows you the method name that your cursor is currently in, the language of the code of the file that you're editing, the file type, and then how far through the file you are, what line number you're on, and where your cursor is on that line. And then this one represents the tag bar, which I kind of showed you earlier, is the list of methods on the right-hand side. So I'll just show you that real quick. So if I do F3 is where I have that alias. You see I don't have a whole lot of code in here, but if I can just go to one of those, and it takes me right to that code. All right, a couple more plugins, and these are for navigating files. Man, that color turned out awful. So File System Explorer, NerdTree. NerdTree is awesome. NerdTree also comes with tabs. So I told you about tabs a minute ago. That wasn't necessarily a built-in Vim thing, but it comes free with NerdTree, called NerdTree tabs. And so I added Control L, Control H, and Control N to go tab previous, tab next, and tab new. So I just add those to my vimrc file, and then I get the ability to control my tabs. So I'll show you NerdTree real quick. So NerdTree, I've got alias to F1. So on the left here, now I can navigate my code. There we go. And then tabs. So if I do Control N, I got a new tab open with nothing in it. But now I could open a file. And let's just go back to the same file we had before. And then I could go back and forth with these tabs with Control L and Control H. And you can see the highlighting changes, but I'm not in a different file. Let's change that. Let's get a different file. All right, so in this tab I have software, and in this tab I have my get forecast. So if I do course it wouldn't work. There we go. So I can navigate between my different tabs, and I could just open more tabs if I wanted, and then go between them. So that's nerd tree and nerd tree tabs. And then opening files. So I gave a little teaser on the opening files by file name. So I write Java periodically, and use IntelliJ, and I love the ability to just, I think it's Command-Shift-N, gives me the ability to just open a file by partial name. And I was like, why can't I do that in Vim? So I went searching. Some dude wrote Fuzzy Finder. It's awesome. So I added this to my vimrc to make it even better. There's a bunch of, like Fuzzy Finders has a ton of functionality, but I really only need this one command, which is fuff, as in fuzzy file coverage file. I really don't know what that command name means, but what it does for me, oh, and by the way, if you see leader in any of these, this is another vimrc thing, right? So map leader ff to the command fuff coverage file, and then do a carriage return at the end of it. Fuzzy Finder coverage file. I just don't, the coverage file doesn't match what I think it does, in my opinion, but the author must know different. Maybe I'm using it for unintended purposes, but it works awesome. So whenever you see leader in Vim, its default key is the / key. So when you add this to your vimrc, you've automatically added the hotkey /ff runs this command for you. So as again, this above shortcut is /ff. So I'm going to go show you. So I'm in here. I'm going to close up some of these tabs. I'm going to do /ff. I'm going to type get. Once I typed get, my get forecast showed up, right? All I have to do is hit enter, open. So if you have a ton of stuff and you know, well, I know my file had the word logic in it or something, you can just type part of it. So if I do model, model forecast. Yeah, you can see it even mode forecast is like, yeah, that's good enough. Let me show you model forecast. It's pretty sweet. Opens it up, perfect. And that's just /ff. So I have a lot of leader key shortcuts that I use. I'll show you a few more going forward. All right, searching files. So searching within the code base that you're in is really handy too. Another one that I use in IntelliJ, I think Control-Shift-F in IntelliJ. In Vim, I use the thing called the Silver Searcher. You may have used ACK before. Anybody used ACK? You've used grep, right? Everybody's used grep. All right, ACK is better than grep. Silver Searcher is better than ACK. Silver Searcher is written C. It's blazing fast. It's pretty slick. It's fairly new too. I think it's only been around a year or so. Tool for searching code, started off as a clone of ACK, but it's 5 to 10 times faster than ACK. And they have, if you go to their website, they have all the proof to show it. They love to show off their performance. Because ACK was written in Perl. It's totally functional. It's just not fast. So again, it's just this easy. Brew installed the Silver Searcher. And if you get the joke here, the command name is AG, but it's the Silver Searcher. Not the Silver Surfer, it's the Silver Searcher. And then the Vim plugin that works with it is github.com and then rking/ag.vim. And then using it in Vim is just :ag. The args that you'd want to do, like if you wanted to have it case sensitive or not, the query, and then the file paths you want to search. So let's do, what do I do? So down here at the bottom, if I can get out of the way a little bit. AG, forecast, and libperl. All right, so here's everything under libperl. It shows me, you can see I can move around these lines now and say I want to open up the command class. Here's my body string in the command class. Or let's scroll down a little more. Let's go to the model class. All right, there we go. So now I can just search through and dig things out that way. So that's how I use searching code in your in Vim. All right, managing buffers. So you're working on your code. Each time you open another file, so for example, I've got one file open here. It's the libperl, my weather, model forecast. All right, I want to open another file. I want to open libperl, my weather, logic forecast. All right, now I have 2 files open. As far as Vim knows, you have 2 files open. All you can see is you have 1 file open, but in the background there's what's called a buffer. So your buffer, you can navigate with built-in tools like ls, and it shows you got some files open, but it's kind of tedious. You have to type in a number, and I don't like it. There's a plugin that really helps out. It's called Buffer Explorer. And again, it's liter BE, Buffer Explorer. Now I can sort, I can list all the files I've got. I can do all kinds of stuff with these. So just flip through files really easily with Buffer Explorer. So that's Buffer Explorer. It's viewing and managing open files. Pretty simple. Just a screenshot for it. The usage, there's nothing you have to add to your vimrc to make this one handy. It's just works. You just install it and it works. So again, same thing with Vundle. All you'd have to do is add this part to your vimrc as a plugin, and then type plugin install, and you got it. That's it. All right, commenting code. We're all commenting code sometimes, right? There's a nerd commenter. You can see that the author of this one's pretty prolific, and he's got some pretty neat tools. This is another great one. And he uses some more colorful language here. If you go to it might interest you in going to the GitHub page just to find it, because I couldn't put it on this slide. There's a dozen different ways to use Nerd Commenter. My favorite by far, the one I use pretty much only right now, is liter CI, and it just inverts the comments. So if it is commented, it uncomments it. If it's not commented, if it is commented, it doesn't comment it, whatever. So
Visual mode as well.
yes.
Nice.
So here I'm in a comp file. Let's see if it works in a comp file. I'm just going to assume it will. So I'm going to say, oops. You can see if I just type it again, CI, oops. So it just keeps recommenting it rather. So if you wanted to do the whole thing, V. There we go. It should just swap everything, right? So there are other commands. I'm not going to go over them tonight. You can look them up on the Nerd Commenter documentation. If you wanted to just explicitly comment, like if you had things that were commented and you wanted to also comment them, you'd want to use the explicit commenting tool or the explicit uncommenting tool. But I just pretty much always use the comment invert, and it works awesome. So that's commenting code. And again, there's nothing you need to add to your vimrc. It just works. So install the plugin, you're good to go. Autocomplete. So when I wrote this slide, I wrote it for autocomplete pop, and it works great. And since that, on Saturday when I wrote the slide, I've since found another one, but I'll talk about that later. It's a little more complicated to install because you have to have a version of Vim that supports Lua. And to do that, you just have to do like brew install vim like -- Lua or something. But I just wanted to go over the simple autocomplete one because it totally works. It's really simple. This one works. I'm not sure if this works off the tags or if it just works off of its own index. It also has an omni Perl mode, which you can enable, but then it autocompletes everything Perl, like for and whatever, sleep and everything, like anything. So that gets a little overdone. I really like it for writing my method names out for me if I'm starting to write code. So the one that I use, for full transparency, is this one here. And you can even see I wrote a comment because I thought I'd show it off. So I commented out autocomplete pop just so it wouldn't load. And then I left this one uncommented neocomplete. So neocomplete's better than autocomplete, but requires Vim compiled with Lua. So to show you it in action, if I were to, let's just do this again. My weather data, you can see all you have to do is type enter equals my weather, and it even starts suggesting stuff for you, right? It's like, oh yeah, I want out of the model class, and then I better load data, and then I'll pass it the args. All right, good. It's just a time saver. Like at first I thought it would be irritating. I was like, it's going to make suggestions that I don't want, but I'm finding more often than not, especially with neocomplete, it really does what I want it to do. Not like what it thinks is smart, but isn't. So I'm really happy with it. It's a good one. And you can fine-tune both of them. I mentioned here the autocomplete pop has some configs that you can edit. You'll find them on the GitHub documentation. Neocomplete has the same thing. All right, code formatting. Now this one isn't a Vim plugin, but it does work great in Vim. So Perl Tidy. Everybody heard of Perl Tidy if you write Perl? It's on SourceForge. It's its own tool. It's its own, not binary, its own script. that you can run against anything, but you can run it right in Vim. The trick is you need a good Perl tidy RC. Just like I talked about a vimrc earlier, you'd want to grab or make your own Perl tidy RC and put it in your home directory of your whatever your system is. There's a great one from the Perl Best Practices book, and it's available on GitHub here. It's the same exact one that's in the book. You just download it, put it in your home directory. And then when you want to run Perl tidy from Vim, all you have to do is either go in visual mode or tell it the range of lines that you want to edit. Use the bang to say I want to execute a program outside of Vim, and you tell it I want to execute Perl tidy in quiet mode. So let's do that. So I want to, let's do this, undo that. Let's screw some of these lines up so they look awful, right? It's cool, right? We should commit it, push it live, right? All right, now we're going to ship it, right? So let's say, actually, let's do the whole thing. So 1 to 24, meaning 1 to 24, right? There's my 1 to 24. And I'm going to do a bang Perl tidy -q. It's just that easy. So let me edit my Perl tidy RC to give you an idea. This is what my Perl tidy RC looks like. It's pretty much the best practices one with a few tweaks. The Perl best practices one likes to have 80 characters as the maximum line width before it starts to auto enter on you in the next line. We're in 2016. We can write 120 column characters, or 120 character columns, in my opinion. And you can see like there's just a lot of tricks here. You could say no extra indentation, maximum vertical tightness. There's some in here that are like controversial, something he says. I don't know. Anyway, the trick is get a good Perl tidy RC, share it with your team, all agree on it, run Perl tidy before you commit code and push it, to your repos, and everybody's happy. All right, version control. So there's a neat tool called Fugitive. The joke in here, this is the version control program, Git. So Fugitive lets you execute these commands within Vim. So as you can imagine, you got your diff, you got your blame, you got your status, you got your committing. So I mostly use the diffing and the blaming. I'll show you those in action. All right, so I want to do a git blame on this guy. You can kind of see I've committed those today. You can see what's not committed yet, but you can see when and what the git hash is. You could do a git diff or So I didn't type the command here, but you could type the command and say g diff. So you can see, well, these lines were not in the committed version of the code, so something's different. That's all it's telling me. And then there's git status, g status. And you can see here, these files are modified. So then I could know I could do a commit, and I could even commit right from here. Come on, let go. Oh. Vim does weird stuff if you have the caps lock key on. Vim does not act like you want it to act. Pretty much all the commands you do are the opposite when the caps lock key is on. So when stuff starts acting weird and you're like, why isn't it not doing what I want? Look at your caps lock key. All right, so to make this even easier, I told you about the leader key. So leader GB, leader GD, leader GS, leader GL are some that I use often. Oh, I didn't even show you git log. I don't have that working apparently.
What happens if your shortcuts are conflicting with each other?
That's up to you. So I'll tell you a little story about that. Let me get through this one and I'll share that one with you. All right, remote development. This one's sweet for what I do here at Ticketmaster, the way I do it. We work where we write Perl, and our Perl doesn't run on our Macs. Our application doesn't run well on our Mac. So it runs great on these dev clusters we have, and each of the developers on our team has a dev cluster. And so we could actually write our code on the dev cluster, but our dev cluster doesn't have the code checked out there. So then you're writing your code, and then you're copying it back to your local machine, and then it's tedious. MirrorVim lets you write your code on your Mac or your local machine, And then when you save it, you can save it remotely from your local machine. So I've even gone a step further, and I've made my own command so that not only is it saving it remotely, but it's saving it locally and remotely at the same time. So I call it sync save. The command that I use from this plugin is called mirror push. So when I run the command sync save, it writes and then runs a mirror push. So then I mapped the sync save command to leader SS. So now when I'm writing code on my Mac and I run /SS, it saves it on my Mac and it saves it remotely. I've not lost the ability to make sure that my code is in my control, but it's also out on my remote server right away. So I'll show you that one in action too. The thing you need to do to get mirror sync set up is, and it's not really documented well, it is when you go dig, but it's not super easy. You run this command mirror config. So once you get the plugin installed, you run mirror config. It opens up a split window. So I'll show you, mirror config. All right, see it split my window? Now I've got the uncommented lines are the ones that that's my example app. So you tell it your local path to where your local code is, and you tell it an arbitrary name of where you're going to send it to, the username of where you're going to send it to, and then the server that it's on, and then the path, and these two slashes are important, the path to where it should be saved on the remote server. So then, okay, so you can kind of see here what I said. I just put those two lines right there. A pro tip, if you're doing mod Perl development, and you want the changes to take effect immediately, add these to your http.conf on the remote server, and when the remote server detects a file change in the file structure, it auto loads them. So when you sync save, your changes are immediate. It's pretty sweet. So let me show you that one. So let's go. All right, so I have a little app running that I put together. Please don't be, one sec. I have a silly plugin that's going to embarrass me if I don't turn it off. I knew I should have done this earlier. Don't worry about that. If it sees the word cloud anywhere, it changes it. It makes me giggle like a 5-year-old. Okay, cool. It's clear. When it says it's cloudy, it gets weird. All right, so I have a simple little app running on this remote server, and I have. I'm going to show you just how if I make a change on. This is the logic forecast, and how did I screw that up? All right, so let me quit this all. There it is. There's my temperature. Okay, so if I add another line to this, this should add, when I save this, I'm going to do SS. You can see what it did here. It says, I pushed that change out to your server for you. You're welcome. So now my change is out on the server, but if I go test the app, I don't see anything different yet. So if I go over to the server, let me actually change one more thing here. And I go into, all right, so these two lines here are what I was talking about. I've got them commented out right now, so that's why they didn't take effect immediately. But if I uncomment those and then restart my server, so after you add the Apache reload to your server, you have to restart. So now my changes should take effect immediately because I sync saved earlier, right? So now you see my test. Now, if I add data, I don't know, something to it, and I /SS, and it pushes my changes out, there's my changes right there. So remote development where all my data is still local, it's just super powerful. I love it. All right, back to it. All right, so kind of the demo, I was kind of doing a lot of it already. I wanted to share the little story with you. The question was, I knew I forget it.
What happens if your shortcuts are conflicting with each
All right, so here's the story. So for the longest time, when I wanted to use Nerd Tree, I thought, oh, it's super clever if I did Control N. And then I should do where is it? I should do my Tagbar over here, Control T. That'd be great too, right? Well, everybody that I would run across like suggestions would say you should totally use Control N for Nerd Tree tabs, and then you should use Control T because it's actually the built-in command for jumping back up the stack when you're navigating tabs, and there's no way to change that. But for the last couple of years, I've used Control T and Control N to control these two columns, so I've lost control of the ability to do those things. So just this last weekend, I was like, okay, I'm forcing myself back. So I set F1 and F3 to these columns, and I'm back to being able to use Control N for my new tab and Control T for my navigating back up the chain. I can actually use the tags the way they're meant to be used, and it's been a long time that I've wasted, I think, a lot of time doing that. So there's definitely a problem with conflicting hotkeys, and you need to spend the time to figure that out on your own. And that just, I mean, if you do some reading and you find some good resources of good suggestions that people write, and let me show you a really good one. I'll have this included in my notes on the meetup page after this too. On Reddit, if you guys are Reddit fans, yesterday, and I bet this has still got to be up there. All right, so it's, the fourth link now. Vim Essentials. This dude posted this yesterday. And he put the time in. He found some amazing articles, videos, everything on how to get better at Vim. So he talks about basic setup, your vimrc, using it on Windows, Linux, Mac, the basics. There's videos, articles, commands, games, then intermediate level stuff. I mean, this page is awesome. So I haven't even had time to go into this because I just been working on the presentation for a few days now. But I definitely plan on going back through this and reading some of these and figuring out what he's talking about. So I wrote demo at the end, but I kind of just demoed throughout. I don't have a whole lot more to it. So do you have any questions?
I may have missed it, but is there, using the curses library, you should be able to convert mouse movements to arrows. So is there a way to...
So on a Mac, it's a good question. The only thing that I know how to do is on a Mac in iTerm, if I use the Option key and click somewhere, it takes my cursor there. So that's one shortcut, but I'm sure there's got to be more things you can do. Really, this program's insanely deep. That slide with the learning curve was no joke. Like, there it is. I mean, I'm maybe here, and I'm using it, but I mean that's my deal. I like using Vim, and it makes my job more fun. So.
Have you ever tried Viper on Emacs?
No, I've never tried Emacs.
It's the VI emulator mode. I don't know if it's anywhere close to Vim though. I'll have to check that out. I use it a lot anyway.
You're an Emacs fan?
Yeah, I use both of them.
I don't know how. It's like everybody I've met's either you're Emacs or you're Vim, but I've never met anybody that does both. You're a rare breed, at least from people I've met. Any other questions?
Are there any plugins for Pico?
I didn't write a presentation on that. All right. Well, thank you for coming.
I will throw out a plugin that I like if you do a lot of HTML and CSS. It originally was called Zen Coding.
Okay.
Sorry, my nose is stuffy because of allergies.
Yeah, me too.
Enunciate very well, but it's called Emmet, E-M-M-E-T, and it's really cool because basically you can type like HTML, arrow, head, arrow, title, and then you hit the whatever key that I think by default it's like Control Y, comma.
Okay.
I changed it to Control Z because of Zen
Well, here, let's demo it real quick.
What it'll do is it'll auto expand that into the HTML.
Okay.
So you can literally type just like one line and get a whole HTML
Can
skeleton.
do you think we could show it off real quick? So here, I wanted to show this off. Watch what happens here. So I do
Right.
plugin, paste in what we saw here, right? The end of the URL from the GitHub. So just that, save, sourced, and then plugin install. It waits for a second, and then it says done. And you can see the plus. That's a plugin that is just installed. I didn't even show you this. So once it's done installing, I used to have like 6 folders in my vimrc or my Vim folder. It's all there now. So Bundle keeps everything clean for you, and literally they're just Git repos. That's all it's doing, is just managing Git repos for you. All right, so now I have that installed, just for good measure until I trust this. It's so then.
So basically, you may have to like edit a new HTML.
Sure. Let's say.
It's one of those file type.
Sure. Let's do that. Let's take.
Sensitive, but it does CSS as well, which I actually haven't used it for very much, but for HTML, it's really nice.
All right.
Okay, HTML,
So just start.
and then
So open the HTML tag.
right angle bracket. Yeah. Oh no, you only need the second one. Get rid of the first one. You don't need just the word HTML, and then like arrow, angle bracket. Yep. Head, arrow.
Oh. Body.
No, first do title,
Okay.
and then do the other angle bracket twice, and then type body, and then hit Control Y, comma.
Whoa.
Look at that.
That's kind of sick.
So actually, I think I must have screwed up on the number of levels, but you get the idea.
I do. That's awesome.
So you can actually do, multiple levels of it at the same time. I love that.
That's really cool.
And that's just like the most.
Oh, I'm sure that's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, because basically there are ways that it'll take you right into either the attributes or the area in between tags, so that you can start editing and then you can jump to the next one, stuff like that.
Super
It's
cool.
really cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I will. I've got it installed now. Go check it out. All right. Thanks. Anything else? All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.